5 or so days after the CT scan, I received a phone call and they asked me to come in urgently the next day. And so at this point, I'm thinking that makes no sense to me. I can just have the wrong person, like a respiratory doctor. I'm going in for my bowels. I went anyway, went the next day, and that's kind of like when I spoke to this respiratory lung doctor. He kind of asked me all about my lungs, like, do I smoke? Am I healthy? Like, all that kind of thing. And then he showed me like my CT scan and there was pictured like little lumps on my windpipe. He kind of was like, yeah, it's thyroid cancer.
Hello and welcome to the Thrive Against Cancer podcast, where we give a voice to the cancer community. My name is Toby Freeman, founder and CEO of the Robin Cancer Trust, cancer advocate and your host. Every episode we will be hosting open and honest conversations with people affected by cancer, whether personally, as a family member, clinician or charities and organisations. We will be talking to the cancer community about the cancer community and all the things that are important to you. Our guest today was diagnosed with a rare form of thyroid cancer, which due to its staging is incurable. She underwent a major surgery which has seen both positive and negative responses across the internet, where she is documenting both her journey and trying to empower anyone to embrace their scars and insecurities. Our guest today is Saskia Clark. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so grateful. This is going to translate terribly on a podcast, but I was really late for this and have been faffing around, so I'm very grateful for your patience.
No, it's fine. It's hot. It's a hot time of the business, so unpredictable.
Yes, when this comes out, it may not be the heat wave, but hopefully people will remember.
Remember the small stint of summer that we had.
Absolutely. Well, here we are on another episode of Thrive Against Cancer. We're so grateful for you to be here. And as soon as possible, I'd like to hand over to the guests. So start where you want to start. Usually we go pre-diagnosis. What was life like? And what were your signs and symptoms?
So pre-diagnosis, I was your average 24-year-old girl, working every day, full-time working, very active, kind of working. I worked in a marketing agency. I was very proud of my job and worked very, very much like life was work. And I think because of that, a lot of my symptoms often got masked as stress or, general overworking or things linked to just corporate life. And I think that's kind of why it took so long for myself to get diagnosed. So I was diagnosed in August last year with medullary thyroid cancer, which is a really rare form of thyroid cancer. And unfortunately, because it took so long to be diagnosed, it's gotten to a stage where it is no longer curable, but livable, curable but livable. But it just means that I will essentially live with the cancer for the rest of my life and be monitored as and when, if it ever grows, and what we can kind of do from there.
So what were the signs and symptoms that you had?
So main symptoms really were kind of chronic fatigue, feeling extremely tired all the time, and then also really bad bowel movements, which is what led me to kind of be diagnosed in the end. But also signs like chest pain and anxiety-like symptoms, kind of like short breath, tight chest, just general anxiety-like symptoms, which is often why things got kind of dismissed as anxiety and stress. And unfortunately, in women, especially young women, you are kind of just everything's hormonal, everything's stress related, and that's why it took quite a long time for the doctors to find anything, as I was back and forth for about 4 or 5 years over with various symptoms, and then it finally got led to this through bowel symptoms.
4 or 5 years is so long. I thought you were going to say
Yeah.
4 or 5 months. That's blown my brain. So you'd been living with these quite, fatigue, chest pains. These are not, just average things you can just shake off. These are quite impactful things we're living with because, fatigue isn't being a bit tired, is it? Fatigue is really debilitating, being knackered beyond belief.
I think things kind of started to get worse year on year, but when it's all you know as well, like, you just assume that everyone feels that way, and, you come out of doing, eh, college, then going into the working world, you just assume everyone's tired, and this is just what they mean,
They do moan a
so
lot in the office as well, don't they? Just like, oh, I'm tired. Oh, you know.
so in my head, like, "Oh, this was just life," like, I didn't
Mm,
realize there was a level of fatigue that I was feeling, but that was just my normal, so you almost just get on with it because that's your normal, you don't know any different. Um, but yeah, my consultant is actually under the impression that I've probably had this cancer, like, because it's such a slow growing
mm,
cancer, I've had it since I was a teenager, so at least a decade, and the symptoms only started to show within, like, the past 5 or 6 years, but because it is so rare, it's so hard to figure it out, and
mm.
unfortunately, it takes a while to figure it out. But yeah,
Wow.
no, hey.
Jeez. Can I ask, do you think you mentioned it earlier, do you think the fact that you were a young woman did play a part in that
Oh,
dismissal of yeah.
100%. I think that especially being a woman anyway, but being young, they will just give you any excuse under the sun. Especially when I first started going to doctors, I was probably like 18 or 19. Then it was just like hormones, anxiety, you've left school, you've started work, so you've probably just stressed. And then from there it goes into periods and hormone health, and you're trying out all these different things, and you're drinking alcohol now and you're doing this. And I think they just very quickly dismiss you, especially if you look fine
Mm,
and you look healthy, and you're dressed well and you've got clean hair. Like, for some reason that's very easy to be dismissed, um, because they are like, "Well, you look fine, so how can these symptoms that you're explaining, be as severe as you're explaining them to be?" Unfortunately, that's often the case, and it was actually a student doctor who got me my referral for a CT scan. I don't think if I didn't have a student, we would have got this far, which is a shame.
oh wow. So you said it was was it a sudden change in bowel habit? And sorry, just to go back one sec, did I read that you were prescribed yoga?
Yeah.
And then just looking back, that must be
Yeah. When I
so
first started
frustrating.
chest pain, we did every test under the sun, like ECGs, echocardiograms, nothing came of it. And so instead of like escalating that further, it was just, okay, we don't know what it is, must be anxiety. And they told me to go for weekly massages, do meditation, do yoga, like relax more. And I did it all. I tried all of that, all of it, but it obviously didn't work. But yeah, that is what they essentially prescribed me with was, yeah, do yoga, do meditation.
Wow. And I have to ask, because I think all the people listening will be wondering this, are weekly massages available on the NHS?
No, they're not. And massages are actually quite
Yeah,
expensive. Like,
they are.
you'll ask we get like a £50 massage every single week. I'm not sure who's compensating that.
Oh wow. Obviously, joking aside, what was how did it feel when you were sent for that scan with the student list? Was that the first time? Don't want to put words in your mouth, that you actually felt like someone actually cared and you were a bit validated in how you were feeling.
It was such a different experience having a student doctor, because I think they're so new to the system
Mm.
that they don't wanna get anything wrong. So she was so thorough, and I could tell that she was really listening and trying to find any kind of connection to what I was saying. And then she would ask further questions, and then, symptoms that you don't even think about, she would, like, ask about, and then they would connect the dots to that. And I think we probably had like a 35-minute appointment, which, and anyone who has a GP appointment, we're looking at like 6 minutes max.
Yeah.
Like, you were not getting a long appointment. So I think because of that, like, it was so thorough. And then she went and got the like second opinion from the doctor that she's under. And that's the first time I felt like someone was actually listening to what I was saying. And then they get urgent referral and got a CT scan the week after. And mixed vibes. I think I was like, wow, someone's finally listened to me, but also like, wow, it's took so long to get to this point, and you've had to urgent refer me.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know. It's a mixed one, but yeah, I think she was incredible. Student doctors are incredible, but it's a shame that it takes someone new to the industry to listen to
Mm.
you.
Absolutely, because there's no way you could look back and say, I didn't advocate for my health, right? You
No.
literally must have done everything.
Yeah. Like, I am such a type A person. I would come to appointments with like lists of symptoms, like logged everything. I would bring my partner with me to try and like have someone else advocate for you. And it's a lot of kind of what I've spoke about on social media of just kind of trying to push people to go and like
Mm.
keep pushing the same point, because unfortunately, like, you going by yourself isn't enough. You need like someone else to advocate for you and prove that you're not making it up, essentially. Which is, yeah, it's a shame that that's the way that it is, but unfortunately, it is.
Yeah, and we had Dr. Anisha on recently, talking about how you should go to the doctors, but that's everything you were doing. You take someone with
Yeah,
you, you write down all your symptoms, you go in with something specific, all of those things, and
yeah.
doing all of that and still not being heard. That is, yeah, incredibly difficult. So, how did you feel going into the CT scan? And then obviously, I know you've sort of told us what happened, but do you want to just talk through that sort of journey?
Yeah, CT scan was honestly, I don't think at this point I was that concerned because I've had CT scans. I think CT scans were not something scary to me. I think because I've had so many health issues, I have been sent for all sorts of things over the years, that it wasn't like my first experience
Mm,
with hospital or a CT scan. So I was like, okay, fine, do the CT scan. CT scans are really, they're not anything to be scared about. They take 5-10 minutes maximum. Um, and they're fine. They're the nicest scans, I would say, out of all of the scans you can have. Um, well, it was about 5 or so days after the CT scan, I received a phone call, um, from just a random kind of like appointment hospital number, and they asked me to come in urgently the next day to see the, like, respiratory doctor. And so at this point, I'm thinking, I don't that makes no sense to me. I can just have the
mm,
wrong person, like a respiratory doctor. I'm going in for, like, my bowels. So that was very, like, odd. But I went anyway, went the next day, and that's kind of like when I spoke to this respiratory lung doctor. He kind of asked me all about my lungs, like, do I smoke? Am I healthy? Like, all that kind of thing. And then he showed me like my CT scan, and there was pictured like little lumps on my windpipe. But at that point, they didn't know what that was. So then I had to have a bronchoscopy to have a look at the like biopsies of my windpipe. Um, and then it came back a week later, and that's when he kind of was like, "Yeah, it's thyroid cancer. I'm gonna refer you to the thyroid doctor, the head, ear, and neck doctor, ear and neck doctor," um, because of that. But it all very moved very quickly from that
yeah.
CT scan, like very, very quickly. Um, yeah, crazy time. Feels weird to even like think back to now because it was almost a year ago. But yeah, very strange time.
And like, did you have cancer in the back of your head? Did you think was that something you had like in your family, a family history of, or, you're so young, no one's thinking cancer, are they, I suppose?
No, I don't think I thought I don't know what I thought it might have been. Um, Obviously when you're shown a CT scan, there's like bumps on your windpipe.
Mm,
First thing I did do was like Google like lumps on your windpipe.
yeah.
And nothing really comes up to do with cancer. It's kind of like could be this and could be that. It's not really anything cancer related. It's very much kind of, smoking implications, which I don't smoke, I never have. So I was like, I don't know what it could be. Um, but I don't know what I thought I was walking into, but I don't think I even knew where my thyroid was before all of this. So when he said thyroid cancer, I was very confused as to like where your thyroid even is. And like
Mm.
I didn't realize that was in your neck. I knew we had one, but I didn't know it was there. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I thought it was gonna be. But it wasn't that. Um, yeah, very, very strange time. And also strange because you're hearing it from a doctor who isn't the doctor for it. So he didn't really have any information for me or
No.
how to help me further because he doesn't deal with thyroid cancer. So any questions I had were kind of, "You're gonna have to wait until you're referred." So it was like a week and a half of just kind of knowing you have cancer, but knowing nothing about it. Um,
That's not a pleasant state to be in, is it, as well?
no,
And I can imagine there was some doom Googling at that point as
really.
well.
So when you actually Google cancer, like thyroid cancer, because medullary thyroid cancer is so rare, it's not the ones that come up, like the top three that come up as the follicular and papillary. Medullary doesn't come up. So I had no prior conception of it. And the doctor at the time, the respiratory doctor, he said to me like, "Oh, thyroid cancer is like really successful. It's actually quite like positive cancer to have. Like, don't worry about it." So I don't think I was obviously upset, but I wasn't really. I was reading more into it, like, "Oh, it's actually gonna be fine, like, it'll be pretty successful, like, this is probably a good one to have." And then I turned up to my appointment with the consultant I was referred to, and he was like, "This is the first case I've ever seen of medullary thyroid cancer." I was like, "Oh, brilliant. Yeah, that's fantastic
No one
news."
wants to be a guinea pig, do they? That's
Yeah, literally no one wants to be a guinea pig, so, yeah. Didn't know it would be cancer, but also I don't know what I thought at the time, but I think I left feeling positive and then came to the appointment like, "Oh, this is actually much more worse than what I thought it was going to be."
wow. So what was that consultants meeting like once you'd had all those answers? Was there staging at this point, or was it just this is the type, this is now a treatment option? How did they go through that? And it's still, you're only 24 at this point as well. Like,
It was very vague at the time because they'd never dealt with it before.
mm,
So it was very much like, "Do you have family history of it?" Which we didn't. "Do you have any kind of correlation to cancer in your family?" No. And I think they were just confused. I think
mm,
they honestly didn't know what to do with me. So at this point, he kind of like reeled off to me what medullary thyroid cancer is, and that it's really rare and that he's never seen it in his career. And this doctor, if I'm going to guess, was probably in his late 40s, early 50s. So that's, not brilliant. Like a specific
yeah.
thyroid doctor's never seen this cancer before. And he explained to me that he needs to speak to multiple different hospitals and discuss kind of my case before we can even, get anywhere with it. But in the interim, I was sent for like so many different tests because they have to figure out so many different things to do with it. And I was just being passed around like every hospital under the sun um, because of the fact that it was so rare, but no one deals with it on a daily basis. Um, and there's not enough research really into how it behaves. So everyone's kind of different and treats different and approaches it differently. So I was kind of just a lot of limbo. I don't think I found out the staging of my cancer or that it was incurable until about a month and a half later. I was just kind of like in limbo of trying to figure out what this was and what it meant, and they were trying to figure out what it was and how we even go ahead with it.
Wow. And it's, as I understand, incredibly rare, like under 100 cases. Is that per year or?
Yeah, 100 cases in the UK per year. And I think just for a bit of context, like I'm in a group chat on Facebook, like a medullary thyroid cancer group chat, and I want to say there's 450 of us in it, and that's like a worldwide group chat. So like it is very, very small. And I think my surgeon who did my surgery, he's the lead for medullary thyroid cancer in the Northwest, and he does 2 or 3 a year. So it's very
Jeez.
minor. Like, no one really knows about it.
Crikey. So what was your treatment? What was your treatment options? And then how did that go through? If it was a month before you even, found out staging and everything, did you have any, I mean, you must have biopsies and tests aplenty, I would imagine, and then
Yeah.
scans aplenty.
So many scans, so many biopsies. I actually did egg retrieval as well at the time. While we were waiting, they're like, "We may as well do, like, IVF egg retrieval, just retrieve your eggs just in case." I had genetic testing done, because the treatment depends on the type of gene that you have and the mutations that you have. So genetic testing can take like up to 4 months, so we started that like as soon as we could. Um, Blood tests galore, but because it is such a, I guess, rare cancer, no one is used to dealing with it. So the types of tests that we'd have to do the nurses were just like, they wouldn't know how to do it. And then, like, I had so many inconclusive tests, like, I'd have to go back and do them again and again and again because they're not used to seeing it. So it wasn't second nature to them to put a blood test on ice or have something readily available and then the test being inconclusive. So it was a lot of that for a month that I don't think I could even think about treatment at that time. I was just so, like, bombarded with try this, try that, do this, do that, that it was just go, go, go. I don't think I even realized what was happening.
Doesn't sound like you had any time to think about anything, just being poked and prodded.
Literally.
I bet that was really
Especially
tough though, because like in healthcare, you sort of, I think the perception is something's wrong, someone knows how to fix it. And there's something
yeah,
very jarring when you go into a situation where they go, there's this major thing wrong, let us work out how to fix it. That
yeah.
must have been really difficult to process.
I think even now, like, not to jump ahead, but now if I were to go to A&E or something like that, I feel like I explain to them what medullary thyroid cancer is, what they need to do, what they need to test for, what we should be doing, and because nobody knows, and that's something I'm gonna have to get used to because it is very much the case. But yeah, it jarring,
Yes.
like not knowing anyone, who had like any experience in it was just a very difficult place to be. And the kind of things I was always met with, because no, like, doctors and nurses are human, but they do probably just don't really know what to say to you in these situations. A lot of them would say like, "Oh, I've read stories about it," or, "I've heard about it here," but that's not really reassuring.
Just sounds like a mythical creature, Oh, we've heard about this in legend. Oh, goodness. So poked, prodded, then told staging. Is that correct? Is that the eventually?
Um, it got to essentially I had quite a few CT scans, MRIs, PET scans, and they kind of were like, "We need to get you in for surgery. You're gonna have to have quite big surgery." But even at this point, like, there wasn't really much talk about where it all was
Right.
and the amount of it. And I don't know if that was because they didn't want to scare me, if that was because they weren't aware of how things were going to go. I'm not sure why I wasn't told the amount um of cancer that was in my body at the time. But it wasn't until my pre-op appointment, which was 3 weeks before my surgery, that they told me they were actually going to do a stenotomy as well as a thyroidectomy, which is like this long incision on my chest
So is
because
that, sorry, is that so cutting through the sternum to open you up? Is that,
typically what you'd have like for open heart
yeah.
surgery. So they cut your entire like sternum open, like break your sternum in half to access behind it. And it was like 3 weeks before my surgery that I'd found out that was also happening, from this random nurse who I'd never met before
Oh,
because it was on my notes. Um,
okay.
and that's when I was like, "Oh, that sounds like quite a big surgery." Like, what's been explained to me is, just a thyroidectomy, which is a very small incision,
Hmm.
to remove your thyroid. I remember leaving that post-op, like, kinda trying to contact my nurse and trying to get in contact with the surgeon, and I think we spoke down he was great, he rang me that evening, but because I've been passed around so many different hospitals and so many different people, everyone just assumed I'd been told stuff prior
Oh
and, like,
no.
kind of misinformation out, and so no one had actually given me the surgery details or the cancer details or anything like that because they all assumed someone else had, and there was not proper communication, and I don't know why the NHS don't all use the same systems, but they don't. So it's all just got
Yeah.
muddled. But yeah, it was at this point he kind of explained to me the surgery would be quite an extensive surgery, because it was all in my neck, my thyroid, 2 tumors in my chest, and we need to remove all of that as much as we can. Um, but that he believed that we weren't gonna get to a place of getting your numbers back to 0, and that was, like, 3 weeks before my operation. And by this point, I think I'd been diagnosed 8 or so weeks ago, so quite, like, big information to receive after 8 weeks of having, like, knowing you have cancer. Um, so a very strange time. A lot of learnings for the NHS there, but we had the surgery regardless.
You are being remarkably kind. Again, look, we're all grateful for the NHS, aren't we? But there is certainly learnings there that
Yeah,
even being told, that sounded like you were being told all of this over the phone as well. Is that right? Just
I
all
was
just
told a lot over the phone, and then I had an appointment. Went in to see him, and he explained it, like, had forms I had to sign and stuff
yeah.
like that. Um, but the majority of it was over the phone, and then they also had to get another surgeon involved who could do the sternotomy and, like, open up my sternum, and a lot of information to receive at once. That you're kind of having this big surgery that no one knows about. um, and yeah, just a lot of information at once, I think.
Mm. Yes, especially 3 weeks out from a thing that's, you've got a
Yeah.
looming deadline of that as well. So
Yeah.
had they explained this was a cancer that started in your thyroid and then
Yeah.
had metastasized out? Is that hence the
Yeah.
later staging, and the plan
Yeah.
was to get everything? How were you feeling? Obviously, once someone says, you know, any sort of surgery is intimidating and scary,
Yeah.
with all of the obvious reasons. But when someone says we're going to open up your chest, that is obviously incredibly life changing as a surgery.
I think they were all so calm and so positive to me, and it's so hard, like, looking back at it now, but knowing, like, post surgery, what it's all like. But they were so positive and so, like, keen to do it that I thought, well, this must be like it. Like, we must have to do this. Like, why would they be so, like, like, not excited, but positive? Like, they were positive this would work. And that we like they were so kind of confident in it. And with medullary thyroid cancer, over treatment doesn't work. Chemotherapy doesn't work. Radiotherapy is very, very low rates of working. Radioiodine therapy only really works on bone metastasized, like when it's metastasized to your bones. So it really is like surgery or nothing. Um, and their aim is to reduce as much as they can through surgery. And then if cancer starts to grow further from there, you can suppress it, but you can't get rid of it. So the aim is just get rid of it as much as you can through surgery. So obviously I was all here for it. I was like, let's do it, that's fine. um but I still don't think that back then I was given as much information as probably I should have been, because I don't know, it's such a rare surgery incision together, and we can go into that about how, like, the internet thinks I had, like, a head transplant and stuff like that. I'm, like, woken up from, being on, like, when you're what's the word? Um, what they do to you before you die, like, to check how you've died. Post-mortem.
Post-mortem. Yeah, yeah.
Everyone seems to think I woke up on, like, the table. And so, like, when I Googled it before surgery, like, there wasn't any of it, because it's just not surgery that happens together.
Mm.
So, I don't know if I had nothing to expect because I couldn't find anything that, I just no one seemed stressed about it. No one kinda said to me, "It's gonna be really difficult," and XYZ. So I think I went into it thinking, "Yeah, it's gonna be fine, like, in 3 months, I'll be back on my feet, happy days, cancer will be really minimal because they're
Mm.
gonna get it all." Um, and so I just was really calm about it, to be honest, but that's definitely because I wasn't given enough information about it.
Yeah, yeah. That's, a, a silver lining is your surgeons being positive, at least,
Yeah.
that reassuring, that is what they're there for, isn't it? It's they are there to put on that air of confidence, and clearly they did have confidence that they could deliver it as
Yeah.
well. And this was a major surgery, wasn't it? Because you were under for, again, I'm done my research, 11 hours. But that is
Well,
a
it's
huge surgery, isn't it?
yeah. I had a bilateral neck dissection, which, if you can't see the screen, it's like underneath your ears, all the way down your neck, all the way around to the other side of your neck meets the other side of your ear. So essentially, they open that up and then, can get into your neck. Um, Removed my thyroid that way as well, and then an incision all the way down my chest. So it goes from like connects to that incision where my thyroid is, all the way down to like just before my belly button. So massive. And they also broke my sternum in half with a saw. They saw your sternum in half, and then wired it back together. So massive. They removed 204 lymph nodes from my neck and chest. I think we have 300 in total in your body, so quite a large amount of lymph nodes gone.
I think that might be the most I've ever heard of, Saskia. And I've heard some pretty high numbers. That's
Actually a pathology world record in our hospital. Claim to fame.
got a little thing on the wall, a little certificate.
The pathology team probably had a great day when my stuff came in because it's the most they've ever received. Yeah, massive, a very big surgery. But I don't think I even noticed that until I woke up. Like I was just so unaware it was going to be that big. Um, yeah, strange, a very strange situation and time. I don't know if it's a blessing to not known because maybe I would have gone into it panicking. But then I have times where I'm like, maybe I could have prepared better afterwards. Um, yeah, and a strange time.
And how was recovery? Obviously, I imagine you were in the hospital for a period, and then you said 3 months as well, didn't you? To
Yeah, it's definitely not 3 months, it's definitely way more than that. Um, I woke up in intensive care, which I was not expecting to wake up there. They kind of told me, "You'll be on the ward and you'll go home after about a week." So that's what I was, like, preparing for. But I woke up in intensive care and I was in there for 8 days. Um, Being in intensive care itself is an experience. It's a very difficult place to be in. And I don't if I'm honest, don't remember a lot of it because I was on such high medication of, like, such high drugs that I don't remember a lot of it.
why were you in there?
Um,
Sorry, was there a reason they put you there, not a ward? Was it just because you were so high risk from the?
so high risk and also because it was, like, my sternum, like, cardiac I was in the cardiac intensive care unit. The head, neck, and ear ward weren't comfortable with having me in the ward given the kind of sternotomy and cardiac area. They'd never had experience in it.
Mm.
It's just not a surgery that happens together. So I was better placed with, I guess, a cardiac intensive care team. Um, that did mean though that everyone in my ward, there was 5 of us, they'd all had heart attacks, which is a very interesting place to be around, and just quite not a nice place to be, if I'm totally honest. Yeah, I was intensive care for about 8 days, and then I was moved to a ward for a further 5 days. Um, I'm now 7 months post-op. I'd say I'm still in recovery. For about the first 2 months, I couldn't walk unaided. I needed help to get everywhere, up and down stairs. Couldn't like lift weight, like any weight at
Mm.
all. Um, just because it's such like so many muscles have been cut through in your body
Yeah.
and so much has been taken from you. I was so swollen from like lack of lymph nodes. Um, I was getting infections every 2 minutes because it was winter. So it was a heavy time. Like I was asleep, like sleeping with like 5 pillows propped up like upright because I could not lie down flat. It was a very difficult like few months of recovery. I think probably I would say maybe like April this year is when I started to feel a bit more human. But it definitely took a good 3, 4 months alone just to walk properly again and eat properly again. Um, and they did say 3 months initially, but I think again, no one knows this surgery. So they couldn't really give you a proper time frame. It really is just luck of the draw, like how you get on.
What's helped you the most what helped you the most get through that recovery? Was there things you did or people or some sort of routine? Shout out the people that, helped you walk and all those sort of things.
Honestly, I'm documenting it on the internet,
Mm.
because I feel like people were just like waiting to see my update, and it almost like pushed me to do more every day because I knew people were gonna like comment on my videos and like ask me about it, and like it's a weird thing to describe someone who's never kind of documented something on social media and had strangers like support you, but it's like a drug, like you get addicted to it, like strangers wanting the best for you, and like it's a different level of support that you can't really explain. And I think that's why people go into like social media influencing and stuff like that, and like people get so much hate, but they ignore it because it is like a dopamine drug, like having these people support you when you don't know who they are. It's a very strange concept, but it really does help.
It's really
And I,
interesting, isn't it? Because you could
yeah,
flip that into a negative, but when you're going through such a tough time, that's such a positive addiction. Because basically, the
yeah,
kindness of humanity is dragging you through this really
yeah,
tough mental time. And
yeah.
that can only be a positive thing, which is lovely.
And it's such like a weird thing that we have access to now. But I started documenting everything like from the day I got diagnosed,
Right.
and kind of just talking about it. But I was getting barely any views at that point, maybe like 2,000 views at a push. And then I had my surgery, and if you could see me straight out of surgery, it is something that would make you stop. Like you would stop and look at the video because it was quite intense. It's an intense incision, and so people were so invested in it. And I was getting millions of views at this point on my surgery videos. So when I was documenting every day for like post surgery, I was easily getting like 20,000, 30,000 views in like the first hour. So it's addictive to like have these strangers root for you. And even though there was a head ton of negative comments in there as well, it was just like, yeah, they really pushed me to like get through every single day. Um, and also just have the most incredible support system. My friends are absolutely incredible. Partner is absolutely incredible. Everyone around me was just like could not have done more for me, but also for my boyfriend. Like people were driving him to hospital to see me. He would be there the second he was allowed to till he had to leave. One of my friends, her mum was actually making him dinner every night and like dropping it off at our house so that he had like a meal to come home to, and like little things that just made the world of a difference. That through recovery, I was like, I just need to get my life back and get back to that because like it just shows you who is important, and like I just wanted to get back to it. Like you just have to push through it. I think that's all I could do. I was like, just keep going.
Yeah, love that. And what was it you were striving to get back to? What's like, or what are you still striving to get back to? What's the goal with that?
Just life, like just getting back to living life. I don't think I necessarily am striving to get back to the life I had before because you do a 180 change, your perspective changes and everything. But just striving to get back to like being able to do what I want to do with my life and like live it. And like I can only do so much day to day, but I can do more every single week. So the more I push on those hard days, it becomes more normal the week after, and then more normal the week after that. I think, it's what, June. If you would have told me in January that I can like sit here with my head up, unaided, speak normally, have a conversation, that would have been enough. So I think the more I do every week, the closer I'm going to get to that person who I used to be, and then we can just do anything I want to do. Like, yeah, I think it just makes you think you just need to like live your life and like not get sick, like stuck in the mundaneness of it.
I love that. Do you think do you find the social media aspect also is, we've heard from other guests that it's like journaling. Like it's not only is the mental release of saying it, you've
Yeah,
obviously get the dopamine hit, but then actually you've got something to chronologically look back and go, "Oh my, that
yeah,
was me in January." And now look at me. That must be amazing to be able to just scroll a few times and think, "Look how far you've come. You can do this."
yeah. There's sometimes where I feel like if I'm having a really bad day, I'm really down, or just having like a negative day, and I will go back and look at videos from when I was in surgery 7 months ago, and I actually can't believe it's the same person. Like I'm like in like it doesn't feel like that's me. Like I'm almost disassociated from it anyway because it's such a traumatic thing to go through. But it's so like it really just like puts it into perspective for you there and then. Like you're fine. Like you're gonna be fine. But it is actually one of the best things I've ever done is documented just so I have the footage. And I think if you go through something like this, some people leave me comments about how, it's quite a private thing to go through and maybe it's too intrusive to document it. But I have found it one of the best ways to cope with it is to document it and just to have it to look back on, but also for other people to see. And it also, in a way, is a great way of like updating your friends and family without having to update your friends and family because you don't have to tell
Yes.
everyone in different chats and like different conversations what the most recent update is. They all just watch the video. And that in a way is great. Like you
Yeah.
don't need to keep saying the same thing over and over again. And I quite like that part of it. It's like my terms of how I speak about it rather than having to update people all the time.
Yes, that broadcasting, right? You
Yeah.
you're saying it in your own way, the way you want it to be perceived by
Mm.
the world, and you could just be like, take it. I don't have to have 45 phone calls now.
Yeah.
And I say this with the greatest respect to everyone that wants to support someone, but you also don't have to deal with their shit because when you're on the phone to them, you've got to deal with their emotions. You've got to deal with their reaction. That has got to be draining as the person going through it. Best will in the world, obviously, they're going to be human and have a reaction, but you can broadcast something, they can have a reaction, and then you can talk to them on your own terms.
Yeah. And that actually is quite a lot of what I do outside of posting it on, posting everything on there. If there's something I don't want to post but need to update people on, I will film a video and just send them the video rather than having to like tell them and listen to their reaction or wait for them to be free and like kind of be stewing over it. I'd rather just get it out and then people can watch it in their own time when they've got time to. And I also can read the response when I want to
Yeah.
read the response. Um, and I think that really helps as well because a lot of time you can be in a good place and someone's just taken in your information and they're upset by it and you do have to then take that on and it's not sustainable to do that. So that is my way of, of dealing with it.
I genuinely think that is just that segment was a fantastic. I don't know what we're going to coin the phrase cancer hack. I think that's a brilliant way of it's safeguarding your own mental health during a really, really strained time when your mental health is teetering all the time anyway. It's a really good way of protecting your mental bubble. So I think that's
Yeah.
really,
Because you don't need to take on everyone else's emotion as much as you might feel obliged to,
mm,
but in that way, they still feel like they've heard it from your voice and not a text message, but you can just do it on your own terms and just send the video out there. When you wanna read the replies, you can do.
yeah.
Done.
Send airplane mode. Not ready to deal with it. Getting a Domino's. Um, You sort of touched earlier on, and I hope we're okay to talk about this, some of the negative responses you've had
Yes.
on social media. I will pass over to you. Rant at me about them.
God. Do you know what? I think if you are someone who consumes social media in a positive way, it can be so shocking to understand that people out there don't consume social media in a positive way. And I think I was just so naive to the fact that this many people can exist and like be so hateful. Um, I started to receive quite a lot of negative comments when I was in surgery because my videos just boomed. They were hitting 7, 8, 9 million views because it is such a shocking incision and it's like shock factor and people are shocked by it and people do not read captions or do their own digging into something and they just assume and comment. So I had a lot of comments about head transplants and um, assuming that I'd woke up in the mortuary. And you can ignore those kind of comments because it's just so ridiculous. Obviously, a head transplant is not possible.
Mm,
But people do love to just go on and on. It was at the time probably a few months after that, I started posting a lot of my content onto Instagram Reels, and because at this point I'd only ever documented it on TikTok really. Instagram was a lot more of, like, just friends and family, um, but one of the videos just started to boom on there, and I think Instagram Reels audience is a very different audience to TikTok, and I received a lot of transphobic comments. Um, I'm not transgender at all. So they're very misplaced comments anyway, but they were just hateful comments. Um, but essentially assuming that I'd had a sex change, which I mean, if you were to use any of your brain cells, you would know that what would a sex change have a chest incision for?
Mm.
Um, and in a lot of my videos, I very much you could see very much that I still have boobs. My hair is like long. I don't know what people thought was happening. But a lot of them would become so nasty in the way that they would comment, and it wouldn't just be transphobic, it would be about me, and it would be about other people, and it would be about race and religion, and a lot of stuff came into it. Um, and I don't know, like, apparently that's something that happens a lot in the cancer community, especially to breast cancer patients, which is awful.
Mm.
But a lot of breast cancer patients do receive quite a lot of transphobic, misplaced comments towards them, because they have incisions around their breasts, or they don't have breasts anymore because of the cancer. And that is something that is very common, which is what people have told me since kind of like speaking about it, which is just awful. Yeah, it opened up a whole new like light to me on the internet that people can be so negative,
Mm.
and so opinionated on something that doesn't concern them, but also is like basic biology to understand that that isn't the case. Um, yeah, I have muted a lot of the videos now because it was just fueling fire and it didn't need to continue. Um, but unfortunately, if I do post a video and it does do well, I probably will receive some level of comment about it.
It's just awful, isn't it? I have to admit, I feel entirely naive to this. It's not something before we'd spoken, I'd
Yeah,
realised was like a large scale issue in the community. And
me either.
we've talked about the best parts of social media, but you've got the absolute worst parts of it there as well. And the
Mm,
problem is, by having to deal with those, by muting muting your videos, that unfortunately stunts the ability to help a lot more people as well, because they can't comment, they can't connect with other people going through something similar.
yeah.
I don't really have much to say on the matter other than I'm really sorry you've gone through this, and clearly a lot of people in the community do go through this. And I think the social media platform should be doing a lot better at monitoring and censoring that type of hate.
Yeah, that's exactly the problem, I think. Unfortunately, Meta's removed a lot of guidelines and community violations around anything to do with LGBTQ. So Instagram is very much where it's placed. TikTok, a lot of it does get banned.
Mm.
If it has happened, I don't see it because it must get muted. But it is predominantly Instagram, and it's because, like you say, they're allowed to comment it. And it will always be accounts that have no name and no profile and nothing at all to say. Um, and I never wanted to mute them in the sense of like letting them win, but like I literally want the videos to be positive and people to take positivity away from it. And the comments were just becoming a flood of negativity and people responding to it and arguing in the comments, and that's just not what I wanted the place
Yeah.
to be. Um, because on the flip side, so many people have been so positive about seeing someone talk about scars or be open about scars or just live life with scars on show. And that's what it's about. And that's what I want people to take away from it and be empowered by, not this fuel of hate that almost might push people not to want to get their scars out in case they worry that someone's going to say something to them or vice versa.
Well, and the thing is, it takes, I think it takes enough to put yourself out there and
Yeah,
advocate for something, which you do so incredibly, but then to do that even though the hate is coming in is an extra special step, isn't it? Because you're saying, okay, I'm gonna get this, but that hasn't slowed you down, which I think is absolutely incredible. You muted them and everything, you've safeguarded as much as you can, but you're still putting content out, and I think that is
yeah.
hugely admirable because you haven't let the hate win, and you are still pushing to help other people. So fuck the
Mhm.
haters, those no name bots.
It's like I couldn't care less, honestly. I'm like, I've just gone through an 11-hour surgery. I couldn't walk 2 months ago.
Yeah.
I couldn't care less what you got to say about this situation. Like, you go through so much that you're like, just don't care. Like, I could not care less what you have to think. If you want to stare at me in the street, anything, it just perspectives change. I completely do not care about a single thing like that.
And what do you want to say to people that do have scars, that people do have gone through these major surgeries? What's like, if you could say one thing to them, what's your main overarching message?
I think the massive thing that I have found help me kind of come to terms with mine is just looking after them and like embracing them in the same way you would embrace your skincare or your hair care or anything like that. Like if you put the time into looking after them, you eventually start to like enjoy that and like take pride in it. And I think that's where acceptance starts is like
Mm,
not hiding it, not being upset by it. And ultimately, if you put care into it, it will eventually, look better, you'll feel better. Even if no one notices the difference, you will yourself notice the difference. You have to put care into something to want to love it. You can't just wake up one day and love it. Like you have to put work into it. And unfortunately that is the case. You have to work hard to love it, but it's worth doing. It's not going anywhere. And you've gone through such a big thing, like, there's no point in hiding it, like, a scar is a scar, and, people in everyone in my comment section who talks about the scar in a positive way thinks it's so cool and incredible and amazing, and it's, like, the best thing they've ever seen, and I think that in itself changes your mindset on it, like,
mm,
people don't look at it and are weirded out or grossed by it, like, they think it's cool, you've gone through such a big thing and you almost have a medal for it without
yeah.
a medal, like, you have, like, a lifelong medal, and it's pretty cool to be honest, like, there's always gonna be something, like, that reminds you that you actually went through something and you came out the other side of it, I quite like that.
I love that. I think that's a incredibly positive message. And yeah, I think people listening that have been through something similar will find a lot from that. We hear a lot about the new normal in cancer, don't we? You're
Yeah,
one person before, then you're finding a new normal, and learning to love yourself is part of that new normal. I think that's a
yeah.
really, really empowering message. Just a bit conscious of time. Just wanted to sum up with like where you're at now, and you know what is life like with a chronic cancer. Like, how are you feeling about the future as well?
Yeah, so I'm 7 months post-op, and so when they did the surgery, they didn't remove everything that they were able to remove. So at the moment, I still have a tumor in my chest, a little bit present in my neck. Though they took 200 full lymph nodes, can you believe? It's still in my neck. And a little tiny little specks at the bottom of my lungs. So like I said before, this cancer isn't like it's not something that you can then cure from here. So it's a monitoring process. And I think like a lot of cancers are like that. I think it's not really spoken about very much in the media that cancer is can be livable and you can
Mm,
kind of manage it the same way you can manage diabetes or epilepsy and stuff like that. It's not a death sentence anymore. You can manage it, certain ones anyway. And so we're currently on like a every 3 months, I have a scan and blood tests that kind of monitor my markers. And then so far, so good. Nothing's changed in the 2 scans I've had since surgery. And we'll continue to do that. Um, I would be lying if I said it's easy. Obviously, it's like scan anxiety every single 3 months. And you kind of constantly the not knowing of what's going to happen. But eventually, it will reduce in like time frames if things continue to
yeah.
be steady we'll go to 6 months, then they'll go to every year, and that in itself, it will become easier. I think right now I don't have as much perspective on how living with chronic cancer is because it's just still so new to me. I'm still figuring that out. um but I take, I guess, peace in knowing that there are a lot of people who live normally and comfortably, and I can access them at any time in these Facebook groups, which are a godsend. And can kind of get confidence from that they exist and they're living life and they're fine. Um, and then that's what I'm aiming for. Aiming to do the exact same.
I love that. I think that is A great aim, and I'm just really glad you've got that community with such a rare chronic
Yeah.
cancer as well. That's so good. Um, One thing we do with all our guests before we sum up is some quick fire questions, if you're right. I don't think you've had these, so I'm just going to fire these off the cuff. So,
Sorry, these are my poor reaction.
what advice would you give to someone who's worried they might have cancer?
Go to the doctor constantly. Don't let someone ever put your symptoms down. I think if you feel something's wrong with your body, you know your body better than a doctor, unfortunately. I know that sounds ridiculous, but you do because you're feeling it, you know your body, you know how you feel. And so if you feel like something's wrong, keep persisting with it. Document as much of it as possible, like little symptoms that you think might not even be something, just document them and take someone with you every single time you go to the doctors, just to have them advocate for you as well.
Brilliant. Fantastic advice. What was the most impactful thing someone did for you after your diagnosis?
Trying to narrow down which friend will get the shout out.
So, play
which
mum.
which person will get the shout out. Um, I don't think there was one singular thing, but every single person who I told, they controlled their emotions in their own way. Like my friends all spoke to each other versus like letting it out on me. And I think that is massive. Like if you are looking like you have someone in your life who has cancer, you're gonna feel a certain way about it and you're gonna be upset yourself, which is absolutely fine and valid. But the last thing someone who is going through cancer needs is to feel that guilt as well. And I think just having so many people in my life talk to each other and like use each other as their support system to then give me the best version of themselves as a support system is massive. And it takes a lot to put your own emotions aside to do that. And I think that, yeah, couldn't have asked for better with that.
That two things. That is amazing by your friends, and an amazing answer that you managed to find one that made all your friends sound incredible without singling any of them out. Well done, you. You can send that to the group chat and just be like, look,
Friend for life. No, I got the star award for life.
that's brilliant. To be honest, I think we've covered this one. I think I know what you're probably going to say, but what's the worst thing someone has said to you about having cancer?
Oh, that it's easy, that I've got the easy one. There's absolutely no cancer in the world that is easy, and it's just such a derogatory statement, and doctors do use it, so we really need to rein that in.
Yes, that's sort of the peak, well meaning somehow, but just utterly destroying sentences.
Yeah.
Yeah. What advice would you give to someone recently diagnosed with cancer?
I think take each day by day. You might one day feel horrendous and you wanna cry and you wanna lie in bed and you wanna get out, and I think it's absolutely fine to feel that on that day. And the next day you might have a burst of energy and you feel fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Like it's such a difficult time, an unpredictable time, and you can only feel the feelings. And I would just like urge people to feel their feelings. Like the more you suppress it, the worse it'll get down the line. You need to just feel them. And then it's easier to be able to then start accepting your normal and fighting through it with a positive outlook. But you have to feel the feelings first and you will have bad feelings about it, and that's just we're human, we are human, and that's fine.
Absolutely. What a great answer. And lastly, what's the biggest lesson you've learned from having cancer?
Very, very generic and probably something everyone says, but you do just wake up and have a new kind of appreciation for life, and you just realize like nothing is ever promised. And I think a lot of my friends have taken like that into their careers and realized like there's more to life than work, or
Hmm.
it might have fueled people to no longer be, living somewhere that they didn't like and stuff like that. Like there is just more to life, and you have to do it now, like, versus going, "I'll do it next year, I'll do it next year, I'll do it next year," because you never know when something could happen, and you just have to live every single day properly, how you wanna live it.
I don't think that's generic at all. I think it's brilliantly cliche, and they're cliches for a reason because it is
Yeah,
perspective.
cliche.
But cliches are cliches for a reason, aren't they? Because they ring true. And I think that is a wonderful, wonderful perspective. Before we go, I just want to say thank you so much for being here. Firstly, thank you for talking with us. Thank you for sharing with us. Thank you for advocating, for helping others navigate, for empowering yourself and others. I think your message about learning to love yourself again afterwards is incredibly powerful. And something I made a note of was earlier you talked about when you were Googling this, there was nothing out there and you couldn't find anyone. And I just think it's amazing that you've created that resource for other people. When someone else is diagnosed, they will find your videos and they will see your story and they will have something to hold on to see that someone's gone through this and that you can come out the other side. So what an amazing legacy. And I've just realised I haven't asked where people can find you and follow you. So we should do that to end the podcast.
Thank you. That is very kind, and definitely the reason I do it, because I couldn't find anyone, not a single soul, and you need information when you're going through something. I document on both Instagram and TikTok. They're both the same, Saskia Clark, and you can find me on both. Probably if you just search Saskia and medullary and thyroid cancer, I'm sure I'll come up. But I document everything, like my entire surgery, my diagnosis, my day to day. It's all on there if you ever need any information.
Incredible. Thank you, Saskia. And we shall be following and celebrating from here. So thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening, and thank you to our amazing supporters and funders who make this podcast happen. If you enjoyed this episode, please give us a review and follow us on social media at Thrive Against Cancer. And be sure to check out our other episodes wherever you listen to your podcasts and on YouTube. If you want to help support our mission to give a voice to the cancer community, please contact us or visit our website to learn more at thriveagainstcancer.co.uk.